Are you ready?
Whenever you get. Amy?
Yes, I'm ready.
And we are live.
All right. I have a call. It's called to order. Can we start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good afternoon, everybody. Can we have a roll call, please?
Director Asner?
Here.
Director Byers? Director Faulkner?
Here.
Director Hudson? Here. Director Mueller?
Here.
Vice President Petroff?
Here.
President Cuneo?
Here. All right. If I can, I'd like to start with a recognition. This is a recognizing one of our board members. Tonight, I want to recognize board member Ms. Tiffany Hudson for completing the Missouri School Board Association's Certified Board Member Essential Training. Missouri law requires that all school members receive 18.5 hours of training. MSBA Certified Board Member Essential Board Member Training fulfills this requirement, provides the foundation for becoming an effective board member. This required content includes sections in the following: student achievement, school law, school finance, board policy, board relations, board operations, goal setting, strategic planning, advocacy, communications, prevention of student sexual abuse. The SSD community appreciates your dedication to serving on the Board of Education. Can everybody stand and let's give her a round of applause. Thank you. And since doing appreciation, I'd like Dr. Macklin, would you stand up, please? No, she didn't. I just want to thank you. You presented very well at MSBA. Everything came back beautifully. Thank you. And I was glad to be there to see it. It was worthwhile. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
We don't have any public speakers signed up. Approval of agenda. Would someone like to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda, please?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Superintendent's report. The FY22 audit report, please.
Good evening, President Cuneo, Board of Education, Dr. Keenan. My name is Jeff Hogg, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer. We're here tonight to share the findings or the results of the FY22 audit. With me this evening, I'd like to introduce Jennifer Jenkins, our Director of Finance. Without her, this would not be possible. The amount of work she and her team put in was amazing, so I'm going to turn it over to her now.
Thank you, Dr. Hogg. My name is Jennifer Jenkins, and I'm the Director of Business and Finance here at Special School District. We had a really great audit, given this year was a learning year for both the auditors and management due to the transition from our previous auditors to Clifton Larson Allen. As far as transitions go, this was a very smooth and supportive transition. I would like to thank my team and the auditors for their hard work and on-site collaboration and completion of the audit. Some of that collaboration takes form in providing the financials, pulling supporting documentation, reconciling accounts, and numerous discussions between the auditors and our accountants, payroll, and other departments. I would like to introduce Andrew Zebel, principal from Clifton Larson Allen. He's here to present the audit for his fiscal year in June 30th, 2022.
Thanks, Jen. As Jen alluded to, my name is Andrew Zebel. I'm the principal of CLA. I spend all my time working with state and local governments. Locally here, we audit 8 Missouri school districts, all on the east side of the state. And before I dig into these materials, it's in the phase of recognizing quality of effort. I really do want to make this group aware of the quality of work that's coming from Jen and her team. St. Louis Special Schools, when you compare their financials to other school districts, it is one of the more, if not the most complicated financial reporting frameworks. Most schools present on a cash basis, meaning there's no assets or long-term liabilities. That is not how St. Louis Special School presents. There's extreme amounts of work that will go into these, and we'll talk about a new accounting standard that came up that increased the level of work here. So before I dig into this, I do want to say that you guys have an extremely strong research with Jen, and make sure to give her acknowledgments and her appreciation, because her team does a lot of work and did a really good job in pulling together the financials as well as supporting us through the audit. So I'm going to go, okay, if you could go 2 more slides. There you go. So this is the team introduction. I think the things that I want to point out in this is, to the left is a quality reviewer named Heather. Now, she specializes in reviewing all governmental audits that ensures quality of engagements. And then to the bottom right of the screen is our MDE-WE subcontractor, Bright. She supports us in the direct assistance role, and all the work that she does funnels up through our review process. If you go to the next page. So the scope of our services, we do a financial statement audit, an examination required by Missouri laws, and then the independent auditors report. These next 2 items here are related to the single audit, or your federal money that you receive. And then during the year, we had 2 major programs that we audited, the Education Stabilization Fund and the Special Education Cluster, IDEA. For all of these reports, an unmodified opinion, that's as clean as possible opinion you can have. In addition to that, through the course of the audit, you can come through and identify corrected or uncorrected misstatements to the financial statements, and we did not have any through the course of the audit. Again, speaking to the quality of work by Jen. If you want to go to the next slide. So these are some required communications that we have to those charged with governance. I'm not going to read through all of these, but the things I want to call out was during the year there was significant bond transactions where you refunded 2014 and A and B series debt, refunded that with lower interest on the series 2022 bond. As a result of that, there was about a $300,000 gain that resulted from this transaction. Can be a complicated transaction. There was no fraud or illegal acts identified during the course of the audit. And then the last item here I want to spend a little bit of time on. This is a new accounting standard for leases, okay? This school district has a lot of leases, around 60 to 70 that are required to go through and do a net present value calculation. It's a cumbersome exercise to go through. And again, why I want to acknowledge that Jen and her team put a lot of time and effort into this, and this was impacted the financial statements in the tune of $2.2 million. Essentially what happens is you increase your assets by $2.2 million with an offsetting liability. So it really doesn't have an impact on earnings or your revenues or expenditures, but it does change the composition of your balance sheet and does create a lot of work to actually go through that exercise. On the horizon for next year, there's another standard which relates to IT subscription, which is very similar to this, and I also expect it to be material single questions. And if you want to go to the next page. The last item here is quality of the financial reporting and internal controls. We did not have any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. Oftentimes, those will result as identifying audit adjustments or uncorrected misstatements. So that is our materials, the work that we've done over about a 3 to 4 month time period, summarized in about 10 minutes. I open to any questions if you have any.
I only have one, and I apologize if it is very simplistic. It said other school districts do not use the same type of accounting system as we do, and ours is much more complex.
So the system.
Why is that?
So the systems and your processes are relatively consistent with other school districts. Now, other school districts simply present cash activity. So you don't have long-term assets like property, plant, equipment. You don't show any bonds or long-term debt in your financial statements. That's how most school districts present, i.e. a cash basis. So if you were to think about it from yourself, if you were to present a set of financial statements, it would just be the change in your cash balance, right? Now, what St. Louis Special Schools is doing, and using your example, is that they'll show the change in your cash as well as the appreciation of your home value, as well as, you know, the changes of your mortgage.
Thank you. Why do not other districts utilize that, since you use other districts?
Yeah, it's a time saver, it's less work, and it's not, DESI does not.
But it would not be as accurate.
It wouldn't present,
It's full of.
it wouldn't present the full picture. So it wouldn't, and you're using your example, it wouldn't show your net worth.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
All right, legislative update.
Yes, good evening, Dr. Cuneo, Dr. Keenan, and Board of Directors. I am here to introduce Bill Gamble. He is he works with our legislative firm that we meet with every Friday and represents us in Special School District in Jefferson City. So, Mr. Gamble.
Follow my script here. First of all, I want to say great thanks to Wendy and Jeff, Trevina, Kevin. We have a conference call every Friday at 10. It's very valuable. And I think everybody knows the legislative issues affecting education, special school district, they come at us in many directions, get a little complicated at times, how we figure out how it affects special school district, because we're so much different than any other public educational system in the state. So it's just been great. We started this year, and I can't tell you how much it has helped me, and I think how it's been beneficial for us to address these complex issues. General Assembly begins January the 4th. We goes to mid-May. They'll take a little while to get organized, as we've got a new speaker, newly elected members of the General Assembly, new President Pro Tem of the Senate, new majority leaders on both sides. There'll be new committee chairmen. Term limits really, you get a lot of turnover in members. New committee chairman, new members. So it's always, it takes a little while to get organized. The governor will give his state of the state, usually about the third week in January. That's when things really get moving. The state of the state will include his legislative priorities and budget priorities. So it's really about the third week. We're really going to get in January, we'll really start getting going. Dr. You mentioned some legislative issues.
Yeah.
And we're going to, that I think you picked up the School Boards Association.
Yes.
And,
it was a little scary, let's just say.
yeah.
At least the way they presented it was a little scary.
I will tell you that we have a great relationship with them. In fact, Mike Reed called me on the way down and we touched base, and they do an excellent job. I can't tell you how much I enjoy working with them. They're highly competent, and the integrity is beyond description. School boards elections. Well, first of all, I do think they'll come back again. The main sponsor was chairman of the committee, term limited, not there anymore. But it will be an issue that comes back. For us at SSD, you're appointed.
Will that even, does the legislation detailing out how we're appointed, not elected, elected from the governing council board?
Yeah.
Can they change that?
Well,
were the suggestions that, I can understand having it go to November, but they were talking about how you would have to declare ahead of time Republican, Democrat, and all that stuff. Will that affect us?
Now, well, as of last session, we thought it needed clarification, the bill. So we provided clarification that it's essentially exempted SSD board members. It was agreed to by both sides, the sponsor, and if this bill comes back again, if we have to address it, sometimes they'll just reprint it. And but we were specifically addressed and specifically exempted because, you know, Kevin thought we needed a little clarification in that, so we did, and it was easily accepted. So,
Thank you.
okay.
No one from MSBA knew that.
Well, it was in there.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah.
It's also going to be interesting because the issue itself came up, if you remember back, my appointment to the districting board for the county.
Mm-hmm.
And I made this very point in reference to the fact that our particular status as board members did not meet the criterion that they then said was outlined in the charter as it pertains to being on the redistricting committee. And if you are publicly elected, is the terminology, or hold a public office in that degree. But it was odd because though we got two different rulings, one from First Blackwell, and one from the attorney for the county executive, and they were opposite. One came from a judge, and the other came from the county in the interpretation. But yet, the persons who are elected as, what do they call them, ones that have the smaller districts, I'm thinking in terms of Fort Worth, we call them precinct chairs, but here it's a different name. But they are,
Alderman?
no, on your local state level, they have these offices. Help me out here, somebody knows what I'm talking about. I haven't seen it moment, but they have these offices that individuals are elected on the ballot to be in those particular elected positions.
Townships?
But anyway, the point is, they were qualified to serve, and I wasn't. But they actually were elected by the general public, and I'm not. And so that issue came up. So this is going to be interesting futuristically for the county because I was correct in reference to the fact that now we're exempt.
Yeah. So in the original bill, for clarification, we did not have an exemption. We testified to the fact that you were appointed, and we would like to get some clarification in the statute. And in the House Committee substitute, the committee addressed that. So if you look at the original bill, no. If you look at the House Committee substitute, yes. And it was attached to other bills as it moved through, and that exemption held. We believe that one of the issues that will come out of the box first will be prohibiting critical race theory. We're all trying to find out where that's being taught. We found a charter school over in Kansas City that it was being taught. It was offered as a course, but so we think that issue will probably be one of the ones that they address early on in the beginning of the session. Open enrollment, that's going to be a challenge because I'm just today more chatter from newly elected representatives in the House of Representatives, a newly elected senator, talking about open enrollment, parental rights, being able to choose what institution their child is able to go to. I was talking to the school boards on my way down, and we're thinking that could be $10,000 to $15,000 per student. Yeah, it is a big number.
Mr. Chairman, can you clarify what the concept of open enrollment is?
Concept is that, the student can go to any educational institution they want to. Whether it's parochial, whether it's charter, they can go wherever they want. Homeschool, in fact, one of the discussions I read today, said that should account for homeschooling also. Now, we haven't seen a bill yet, so we haven't seen the specifics, but that is the discussion.
Can kids enroll in public schools outside of their local school
Yeah.
district under this? Could they enroll in SSD schools?
What would they do with
without being,
transportation?
without SSD's approval?
Well, we'll see what the bill says, but that is the discussion, that's taking place now. But yeah, you would go. There's no, in the school transfer bill, we got provisions in there that essentially exempted us and let us have the choice because of capacity issues. And, we would certainly try to address those issues in an open enrollment bill. So an open enrollment is a little different than the transfer bill that has been in the mix for the last 2 years.
On an open enrollment, how do they deal with transportation?
Well, in the transfer bill, that was left up to the parent. It was not the responsibility that was one of the big issues we wanted to address in the school transfer bill, was to make, because our transportation costs are...
It's astronomical.
Yeah, it is astronomical. So that's going to have to be addressed in an open enrollment bill also. But until we get into see what's filed, we have our conference calls, we start looking at what language needs to be addressed, and we start meeting with the sponsors and committee members. So I want to tell you that this is just discussions, concepts, chatter, so to speak. Haven't seen it filed, but it will be filed in December. We'll know what we're dealing with.
I can imagine a lot of kids from surrounding counties wanting to attend St. Louis County schools specifically to access SSD services.
Mm-hmm.
And I would want to know how, if that happens, that needs to be part of the bill and the consideration.
Yeah, we, in the transfer bill, we did address those issues. We testified before the committee as a point of, for informational purposes only, just presenting the facts. Afterwards, the sponsor of the bill came up to me and said, "You made good points. We're going to address that." And we were pleased to see that they recognized the issues, the capacity issues, the transportation issues that could affect us.
That was one of the things when I was at MSBA, there was a variety of things that came up after on the open enrollment bill. Then all of a sudden, 3 amendments down that they wanted to see if MSBA would support. They talked about getting rid of the property tax,
Personal property tax.
The way I saw it was, if you got rid of the personal property tax, I'm not saying to do it or don't do it, but if you got rid of it, certainly make open enrollment a lot easier because they wouldn't have, the say in that area because it would be their money.
Yeah, that's true, but I mean, how it would affect the pool of money that they would have to take and use would be immense. I mean, the impact on doing away with personal property tax to public education is huge. I mean, we're talking more than $1 billion. So if you take that money out of the mix, that's the interesting part. You take the money out of the mix.
Where are you going to put its place?
Well, yeah, where are you going to put its place, and what are you going to have to transfer?
Yeah.
On an open. So those are the issues we deal with, and sometimes it's not very consistent. The arguments, and welcome to our world. Parental Bill of Rights. We worked with Senator Onder last year with the School Boards Association and also M&EA we thought we had a pretty good compromise. You know, we have issues that they addressed. Just can't have a parent come into one of our classrooms. Those were addressed to the best I think we could at the time. Thought it was something that was livable. But now Senator Onder's gone, and we have to start all over again. We'll see who the sponsor is, but I think that will be another issue that will be addressed. Now, charter school expansion, that's probably going to be rolled in with the open enrollment. We'll see if there's I'm sure there'll be a separate bill for charter expansion. But in many instances, open enrollment and charter school expansion are going to be pretty much the same. But we could be dealing with transfer bill, open enrollment, and a charter school expansion bill. So we could have three different issues right there. And finally, one of the things that I'm worried about, I know the School Boards Association is worried about, and we're seeing that in committee hearings, we've seen discussion by members who are concerned about the fund balances that public education school districts keep. And probably we'll see legislation that limits a fund balance, the reserves, to 15%. Now, you know, we represent other associations. I like to keep a year and a half.
Can we, when we talk about fund balance, is there a possibility to change the percentage to either days or months that you need to survive? No, I mean, that makes more sense. Yeah, would you need a 6 months reserve to survive? The percentages don't always make sense.
Yeah.
And my other, and just because I tend to be cynical by nature, is this being sponsored by the banks to get it down to 15%? Because you're gonna have to have short-term loans to cover in case something doesn't come in.
No. I don't think, well, one of the discussions we've had, and we've talked about it, I think that, no, it wouldn't be pushed by the banks, because I think that if you limited your fund balance to 15%, does that affect your bond rating? And I think it does. We've had other public entities that individuals have had some issues with and talked about the fund balance, and we discovered that it's probably going to affect your bond rating. So, no, I don't think banks would be, they're not pushing it, and that's why.
It's just that you would need to carry a line of credit now.
Yeah. And I was like,
there's no guarantee you're gonna be paid all the time.
Yeah.
They don't pay on time. Personal property taxes will come in.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. And I was like I was saying, in the associations and groups that we represent, or we manage, we want to keep a year and a half to 2 years of reserves. You know, 15%, I lose sleep at night, you know. That's just
It's
way...
a month and a half.
Yeah, it's
a month and a half. That makes no sense to me.
No. So I think we have a lot of, we've got good arguments, but I know that we had a discussion, we're gonna check, and I know that School Boards Association are gonna check with bond counsel and see if we do have that argument of affecting credit ratings.
I'd like to go back for a moment to this as a matter of note, Parent Bill of Rights.
Mm-hmm.
Before, I think that was known as the PTA.
Yeah.
Okay. And the PTA has structure that goes all the way to the national. But I yet have seen the PTA attempt to actually formulate information as to what their particular value is in that regard. Because they can make policy. They literally, in an independent school district format, they can make policy because they then represent the taxpayer. But it would seem that instead of going through legislation, giving a parent bill of rights, that if you've got a structure that has a national structure from local, state, all the way to DC, then that would be where that particular function should come from.
It has become a political issue, one that I believe opponents believe it resonates with voters, and it's something I believe we have to deal with. I agree with where you are, but it is an issue that is out there. It was very, 2 years ago, or a year ago, in the Virginia governor's race, that was one of the major issues that they think helped them get the governor's mansion. So it's out there. We need to make sure that it doesn't affect the ability to educate our students. And there isn't a provision in there that adversely or creates disruption, creates affects the curriculum that we need specifically for the students that you take care of, that you educate. So it's an issue that's going to be out there.
Yeah, the PTA has the ability to be involved in that, and they are a structure that's financed to some degree. And you would think that that would give them an opportunity to be more involved in that particular aspect. My other question I had in that, in reference to Parents' Bill of Rights, is there anything prohibiting districts from being able to offer up contractual agreements between parents and the district and kids in the district?
I don't believe so. I would have to go back and reread the bill. I don't think so, but that's an interesting point. I don't think that was ever brought up in any of the discussions we had.
Well, that goes back to parental involvement,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of the things that you'll find oftentimes in general education from that standpoint, a decrease in parent involvement. And if we're talking about legislation or agreements that then binds a parent to the child's education in that manner, having a contract that simply outlines certain expectations for both the child and the parent within the district and the school building or whatever they're in their particular involvement. So I would think that that would be something that could be termed differently, or utilized differently in talking about how do we get parents, because that's what that tends to be, get the parents involved. So how do we get them involved without there being something like a legislative piece, but yet more so the abilities for the schools themselves to make agreements?
One last question.
Sure.
Or one last request. Is it possible when things, I know 681 is a massive omnibus bill.
Yeah.
And everything that's thrown in. If perchance something strange occurs in there, do you mind sending an email to someone so that the whole board can see that? Because I know it changes nearly every week, and there's always one or two things in there that are really bizarre.
Yeah, we can. I mean, most of our interactions have been real time when it happens. Sometimes they'll, Wendy, Kevin, they get an email at, 11 o'clock at night during the committee hearing. So we communicate real time. And because it's good to have the conference calls, but then after we have the conference calls, then, Kevin or Wendy, they go back and address what changes need to be made. And so it's no problem to add somebody else on.
It's just, I clearly don't want to get surprised on that fund balance or that school board elections. Those are two things I just don't want any surprises.
And I can tell you how we operate in our firm. We follow every committee hearing, okay? And we're there. We're just not, we just don't zoom in. We follow all the floor debate because we have a pretty wild process in Missouri. You can offer amendments anytime, anywhere. Yeah, you've got to be there.
Just kind of added on.
Huh?
Just kind of added on.
Oh, yeah, handwritten, so we're, you have to do that. It's just the nature of our process. So we're there. Tuesdays are education days. That takes my whole day. We start at 8 in the morning, and usually the House finishes at about 1, and the Senate comes in at about 2 for education hearings. And that goes till 5. So we're there.
On average, how many bills usually come through or proposed?
Well, probably about 2,000.
And how many are like?
This time was about 111, not counting the appropriations bills. So this was a low, and usually you get a lot of committee substitutes, so you get a lot of issues, but because of discussions that took place among senators, we didn't see the productivity of legislation wasn't as great as it has been in the past.
And how was the percentage that actually go through?
Well, 2,000 introduced, we had about 100 or so. And you do the math there. This year was not high. Usually we're about 200 bills, not counting the appropriations bills, and then you got to get into how many issues are in a substitute bill. So it could be more than one issue, many times, several issues. And especially with the education bills, they'll group them all together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I believe we have one more. Are there communications, please? Thank you.
Good evening, Board. President Cuneo, Board of Directors, and Dr. Keenan. I'm Jennifer Henry, the Executive Director of Communications. I'm here tonight to give you an update on the district's communication efforts. This summer, the team collaborated on a revised mission for our department. We wanted to make sure that we were capturing the why behind our work and making sure that it was still relevant and that it aligned with the district's strategic plan. So some of the key words that you'll find in our mission statement are transparent and impactful communication, that it aligns with our core values, that we are essential collaborative partners, providing high quality, creative, and effective solutions. I'd like to introduce some of the team members that are here with me tonight. We have Ms. Chantel Chandler, our marketing administrator, Ms. Janica Shear, our communications administrator. These are all of our team members who work diligently to support the district's communications efforts, as well as our print shop and front desk. Andy Harping is our community partnership coordinator who will be joining us. She replaces Sally Tepani, who retired at the end of last year, and she'll be joining us here in the next couple of weeks. Central office reception is part of the communications department. Ms. Linda Glass welcomes visitors and facilitates incoming calls. She's an essential contact for providing information for our families and our staff, and she also provides clerical support throughout the building. Mr. Chris Clark is our print shop manager, and he works to provide a variety of services and materials that support both our classroom instruction and our district operations. I'm going to give you a brief overview of our external and communication efforts, our internal and communication efforts. Our external communications efforts are here to list of some of the areas that we focus on. Many of them are electronic. One of our key areas is our website, followed by social media, our electronic newsletters, our board brief and our superintendent's blog, and our video highlights of our students and staff. This past year, we did do an audit, go back please, of our website, and we removed outdated content, replaced with new information and improved navigation. We also added an improved HR section to aid in our recruitment efforts. In the area of video, we created 27 videos highlighting SSD student staff and programs, and created over 50 videos for the new SPED process training. We've been intentional in increasing our coverage of our SSD schools and in our partner districts. This past year, we increased school coverage by 129%, and doubled the coverage of our SSD schools. Social media continues to be a top platform for information about the district for both our families and staff. These are our analytics for Facebook from this past school year. And you can see in every area we increased from the previous year. The area where we see the spike from January through February, of course, many of those are snow days, but the top performing posts during that time were of our senior students, our videos and student profiles of those leaders. We also focused on our SSD branding. When we launched our strategic plan last year, we introduced not only a new logo, but new branding, including messaging for SSD, so we can make sure that all of our materials are aligned with our message and our look and feel for any materials that we create. And that includes the branding that was established by Ms. Chandler a couple years ago for our CTE programs. Our branding is more than just the way things look. It's really about how people feel, that relationship between our stakeholders and the organization. One of the key areas too is we're working on our mission-focused communications and making sure not only do our materials align with our brand standards, but that we're using strategies and tactics for messaging to make sure that the information is presented clearly. So as you can see on the screen, the information on the left we presented multiple times to a variety of stakeholder audiences, and people still didn't understand the difference between a strategic plan and season. This past year, we introduced the graphic on the right, and we heard from many that this made it much clearer for them to understand the difference.
In fact, I would recommend that every time we give that talk to the governing council, that's included. It's a simple way to look at it in one page.
Absolutely. We offer a variety of ways for teaming communication with our stakeholder groups, participate in parent advisory council meetings. We are responsible for the Talk platform. We host all of our voice of customer surveys, and we monitor and execute all of our social media platforms, which include Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. Here's some data from our Let's Talk platform. So we continue to have a high volume of messages that come through every month. Primarily, our messages are from staff, but we do have about a quarter of those from our families. But the most requested topic is human resources. So we are working on making that section of Let's Talk a little bit more robust so that we can make sure we're addressing the needs of our staff. The area that's marked other interest areas, those are miscellaneous areas, but also COVID fell into that area, so that's why there's such a large request there. We've improved our customer service score over last year from 7.3 to 8.5 out of 10. And our average dialogue age, how long it takes to respond and close the dialogue, went from 2.3 to 1.8 days. Community partnerships are an important part of our organization. We have approximately 700 businesses, universities, associations, and organizations that we work with throughout the region. And we partner with them to act as guest speakers, host field trips, provide mentorships, scholarships, or act as TBVI or BSP host sites. We also work with organizations to partner in ways that are beneficial for both. So if it's not one of the areas we currently have a partnership, we're willing to work with them. One of our essential partners is our Special Education Foundation. Each year they work with us to provide food for our weekly backpack program, which also includes food over our winter and spring breaks, and that's in collaboration with our FACE departments, as well as the code drive, also in collaboration with our FACE department and our social work department. And then the Critical Needs Fund, we promote opportunities for our staff to contribute to that as well. This past year, we were able to collect 41 codes and raise over $2,000 in collaboration with FACE and social work to support the code drive. And we are again collecting codes and funds this year. We're growing our partnerships through the Chamber of Commerce, with the Washington University partnership, and through the Urban League. Some of the ways that we highlight our community partnerships are through social media and through our newsletters. Every October, we highlight National Disabilities Employment Awareness Month. This year, we highlighted students in various community businesses, showing the various ways that they're learning real-world skills. We host signing days at our tech schools, so our organizations that we partner with that are employing our students or recent graduates. And then we held for the first time ever last year the St. Louis County Apprenticeship and Career Pathway Showcase. It was a 3-weekend event, so 2 Saturdays, March and February, where we held at our North Tech, South Tech, and our Rockwood High School a variety of exhibitors that shared employment opportunities or education opportunities. And we are going to be hosting those again this year on February 25th, March 4th, and March 11th. Last year, we were able to raise close to $6,000 in sponsorships to cover the cost of the event. We had over 1,400 participants, and our survey that we conducted following the event, 98% of our vendors or exhibitors rated that they were satisfied or very satisfied with the event and wanted to participate in the future. These events were in collaboration and were possible through partnership with Aston, Pattonville, and Rockwood School Districts. We have lots of great things happening in our schools and buildings every day. And so this year we're focusing on making sure to celebrate those everyday moments. We are sharing through social media and our website our moments of awe. And so we ask that our community share those with us so that we can make sure that we're celebrating across the county in all of our schools. Focusing on our internal communication efforts, we've made some improvements this past year, including the launch of our new intranet, which I'll share a little bit more in just a moment. Our Connections Weekly newsletter, we recently moved to a new platform. We've relaunched Cause for Applause in cooperation with our Student Services Department, which is an informal recognition that aligns with our strategic plan so that staff can receive recognition for their efforts, not only for their contributions to the workplace, but just a regular celebration for things that they might have done on a project or to help a coworker. We also relaunched Who's That, which is a feature of an employee throughout the district. We're making sure that we're being strategic, highlighting staff members from a variety of roles, so that we're not consistently highlighting just teachers or just parents. We're making sure we focus on all areas. And that used to be a monthly feature, but we're a very large organization and we have a lot of people, so we wanted to make sure we were highlighting as many people as we could. So we do a highlight in each week in our Connections newsletter. And that is one of the highest rated pieces of our newsletter that is consistently clicked on. We did launch a new newsletter for our central office. Through our strategic plan process, we heard a lot about silos, particularly in our central office. And to try and make some connections and make sure that we were communicating well throughout the building, we launched a newsletter just for this building for information that was pertinent to the staff here. We did just move over to a new platform for an e-newsletter, which will benefit us internally as well as externally because it will have better analytics. But it also offers a translation integrated platform so that we're able to reach a variety of staff members and families who may not speak English primarily. A lot of work was done this past year to revamp our awards and recognitions. So our Salutes Banquet and Retiree Banquet we combined into one event last year where we highlighted our Teacher of the Year, our Keys to the Classroom, which is our teachers, building block for paras, lasting impression is open to all staff, special ambassadors, our community partners. And this year we're adding a new category, our distinguished leaders. There'll be an opportunity for a leader from SSD schools and operations, and then our SSD partner district staff. And then we will have a separate award for leaders who are in partner districts that support SSD, making sure that we're highlighting staff members who are really here to support the work of our organization. We made sure to streamline the process because it was a little bit cumbersome to nominate somebody. So that is now an online platform, and as well as our voting. From that, we were able to hold our first in-person banquet since COVID hit in 2020. And we did survey attendees, and 91% of those who were surveyed rated that they were satisfied or very satisfied with the event. Primarily noting that it was very efficient with a 1.5 hour run time. We also have been promoting our student award standard awards by doing student celebration video profiles, which I mentioned earlier being one of the most highest rated views on our social media. And then we did the board celebration with the Board of Education. We revamped our milestones recognition, so we cleaned up our awards recognition store to make sure that the merchandise reflected reflected our appreciation for our staff and was of value to them. We added a 5-year recognition category and a 1-year recognition category as well in the connections. Previously, staff were not recognized for the years of service until they had been here for 10 years. And we have a lot of staff members that do great things before they've been here for 10 years, and we wanted to make sure we were recognizing them. This is a quick snapshot of our employee engagement data. You can see 71% of SSD staff rated that they are engaged here at the district. In comparison to other benchmark data, 39% nationwide of school staff are engaged, 26% of U.S. employees, and 20% of employees globally are engaged. So we're doing pretty well in that area. In the other categories, we are within about 1% of where we were last year. So we're remaining pretty steady in our engagement data. We are currently in the survey window for our new survey. We launched a new survey platform called Panorama. And our survey just wrapped up, and we'll be getting our data here shortly. We'll be conducting a new survey again in the spring that will give us some comparison data to make it more actionable as we go throughout the year. Next. As far as employee engagement, we have worked with employee advisory groups going through the survey data. We have the 5 different groups in the steering committee. We look at the survey results and the focus group feedback, and we take from there the themes that we see, and then we meet quarterly to discuss the themes and what actionable items we can bring out from there. This year, the themes were recruitment and retention, staff value and recognition, fostering relationships and connections, and then communication and strategic feedback. As part of the work that the Community Engagement Committee develops, we are doing quarterly events to make connections between staff members. This past year, we did Beyond Van Gogh, the Muni over the summer. We just had our Cardinals game in September, and the Blues game will be here shortly in December. And then over spring break, we are planning to do a science center event. We also have the SSD Marketplace, which is a platform that provides discounts to our staff members. We often get requests for Sam's Club memberships or cell phones, gyms, those kinds of things. This platform curates all of those discounts into one easy platform, and many of them are local, but there are national discounts as well. We have 47% of our staff participating in the platform, and to date, it's raised over $324,000, or saved our employees over $324,000. Internally, we've spent a lot of time collaborating with OESE, worked in collaboration with the advisory committee to help restructure the department and hire Mr. Boyd. We did a lot of outreach to address some of that paraprofessional shortage. We also made sure that we were revamping and reworking some of our recruitment pieces for our hiring fairs. We provided new branding, and swag items. We're going to share one of the items that we have created for our new employees. We provided totes with some swag in it for new employees to help them feel welcomed. And this is one of the most highly requested items is to deal with. In addition, as I mentioned, we reworked our website to make sure that we were making it as easy as possible for people to find information about employment opportunities, and then updated those recruitment materials to go with it. We also collaborated to create a new onboarding process, which is now in person, to help our staff feel more welcome to the organization. So we have launched a new intranet as part of the feedback that we received last year from the survey and our focus groups, as well as the advisory committees, is that we needed one place, had all of the information in an easy-to-find format. Our past intranet, SSD Life, was laid out in a different navigation that was a little bit hard to navigate. So we did some surveying of staff and health and focus groups to get some input on what would make it easier for them to navigate and what things they were looking for. So the new platform is on Blackboard, our website platform, and it follows a very similar navigation. One of the key things that we have on the platform is position-specific hubs. So our para group specifically told us that they're looking for information that just pertains to them and their jobs. And they were having to go to many different places across the intranet. So now they can go to the para hub, and anything that they could possibly need should be in that area. Now, it is a continuously improving site. We like to talk about it as a living site, so we are making changes and taking recommendations as we go along, but we launched on November 1st and have had just minimal recommendations for changes, but we've had some good feedback. We will be sending out another survey to staff to make sure that we have any feedback for improvement or areas where we might need to build. So we are working on that. One of the other areas that I know some of our teaching staff were excited about is the planning resource hub. So it's similar to teachers pay teachers, but this site has curriculum planning resources that have been vetted by our staff specifically for special education. And that was in collaboration with our academics team and evaluation and research. Next. And I would like just to take a moment to brag on the communications team. We are part of the Missouri School Public Relations Association, and annually they hold a communications contest. We entered 9 entries, and we received 9 awards. The Award of Merit is equivalent to a silver medal, and the Award of Commendation is equivalent to a bronze medal. So each of the team members that you see entered at least one entry and received an award. Those entries are judged by PR professionals from other states, and they're measured against industry standards. And I just wanted to include some of the photos of our students and staff because it's a reminder of why we do the work we do. We want to celebrate and highlight all of the great things that are happening in our classrooms, across SSD, across our district, and our partner districts. There's so many great things happening with our kids and our staff, and we're really here just to tell that story and celebrate those things. So we want to collaborate and support where we can. What questions do you have?
I have one, and it may not be one that you have direct knowledge of. Going back to external communications, I noticed you say we have growing partnership with Urban League. I can seemingly remember a few years ago we had a letter that in turn was kind of like an agreement in waiting. And I can't remember if it had specific amounts of money attached to it at that time. But I know that the Urban League, mainly is in the city, they do have a couple of satellite offices now out in North County. So in which ways are our partnership shaping up with them?
Sure. I don't have a full picture for you, but I can get that for you. What I do know is that we have a variety of partnerships. including the career and tech ed side. So they came and supported us through the showcase events that we had, and we were working through some additional partnership and support with them at the end of last year with the retirement of Sally Stefani, our partnership coordinator. We have kind of had to pause that work, but we will pick that back up here shortly. I spoke recently with the director of early childhood for Urban League, and we were talking about partnership ways to collaborate. And so we're going to be having some further conversation in the near future. But I know we have several MOUs for various areas across the district, so I can get that information and provide it back to you.
Yeah, and you say partner with early childhood. Do they have an early childhood in the county, or is it only in the city?
Early childhood services.
Excuse me?
Services. I don't know if they have a facility. So I think, from my understanding, they provide some screenings, but I don't have the full details.
Yeah, I'd like to know that, those satellite offices that they have.
They do.
They do?
Yeah.
Satellite offices in North County are early childhood?
Yeah, it's an office, I don't think it's considered satellite, but they actually have a, office location in North County, as well as the early childhood program.
Yeah, but I'd like to.
I'll find out more and
Thank
give
you.
it to you.
Thank
Yeah.
Thank you. Wait, one more.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. I just want to say congratulations. I also work in communication, so I have a lot of respect for what you do. And I follow all of our schools, all of our platforms, so I'm keeping up with what's going on. I just want to say congratulations, and I respect the work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the consensual items?
So,
All in favor?
aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 8.01, lead administrative assistant position. Would someone like to make a motion to approve? That's you.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. I'd have to make a motion that we table that or either have further discussion. Question.
Jim, can I have a motion? Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
All right, so the motion is to table that at the current time? Is that what you're saying, or do you want to speak on it?
Well, we can, if I speak on it, then I can, there are some questions in reference to what that consists of.
All right,
Yeah.
go right ahead.
Okay. I'd like to understand better. It seems like that we had a similar situation here some 2 years ago, and we stopped doing this in reference to the assistant training. And I wasn't clear on how long we were going to have to do this. And as I understand, we're talking about an individual who has a position currently that then will take on an extra duty in doing some of this.
Position is going to be reclassified. When we classify a position, it's looking at an existing current position and we're adding in additional duties. So the position is actually in the class, the lead administrative assistant. So the way we posted the position was internal person who has experience working at a director or executive director level administrative assistant. And then we were also going to be adding in additional duties. Your first question, it's been over 10 years since we've had an administrative assistant lead to mentor our administrative assistant. And in the past 5 years, we know that we have at least 50 new administrative assistants out of 130. Going back 10 years, you're going to probably get closer to 100 or 90 to 100 new administrative assistants that haven't gone through any formal mentoring program.
I understand that this is also based upon procedures that we have that other school districts don't have, that have to be, that individuals we're hiring may not be associated with certain aspects of internal operations, record keeping, or what have you. Then are those requirements, that when we hire those individuals, we ask if they have?
Not quite sure.
Well, I'm simply saying, as I mentioned before, you may recall that one time before I asked, are we creating criteria, which everybody has to have these criteria, such that, you know, God himself could work with this organization. So if in fact that we're hiring people who have all these criteria, then why are we having to add additional training to these people?
We're not adding additional training, we're actually giving them training for their actual jobs.
So we've hired people who convinced us that they were professionals in these fields, and now we've got to train them to do the job that they said that they were professionals on?
No, we're hiring them within the organization. So when you hire somebody, you have Watson, you have different systems within. Not all of those are universal. You can go into a hospital, you have to learn a different system there. So what we're saying is we need to train staff on how to utilize our current systems. When we have new systems that are coming in, we have to train our staff on those. So it's also looking at customer service, it's also looking at expansion of our finance piece of it, because all of our administrative systems do interact with our finance pieces, approval for your travel, all those types of things.
So we have two people, is that correct? We're going to look at reclassifying their position.
The two positions, not people, two positions we're looking at are going to have current positions where they're already working as administrative assistants, and then they will do additional pieces or on top of that for training and mentoring our administrative assistants.
How many administrative assistants?
We have 139.
And are we in turn getting high turnover in that situation?
We've had about 100 over the last 10 years. So we have about 39 out of the 139 that have been.
I'm somewhat confused on this one, if you don't mind. This says we're looking for a lead administration assistant position. This is to approve this position, correct? Not the number of people, not two positions.
You've approved one position already.
This is to approve the second
Yes.
position. Okay. I just wanted to clarify, because I was somewhat confused on what we're doing.
So the reclassification, as I said, is for two people.
We have one position already approved. This is the second one because of the volume of having 50 people or close to, if you go back 10 years. So we were just looking at the first 5 years, and that's about 50 people that have.
I'm not sure how much of this is executive session, but it's a comment just about the general needs, I guess, let me get it. So I think I previously discussed my concerns were about the longevity of this position, right? And I'm just wondering, I mean, I understand there's a high volume of work now. Will that same amount of volume exist a year from now? Will it be enough to justify two lead administrative positions?
I'd say the amount of work that's required right now, just for the first 5 years, is at least 3 years, 3 to 4 years out. Now, what we can do is, when we look at it, there's going to be other opportunities within the organization. These two individuals who are in this position, we're going to continue to evaluate the pieces in terms of how do we continue to grow these, our administrative assistants, how do we look at surveying our administrative assistants, what they need, and to make sure that we're looking at long-term goals around this, because we're building this from scratch. And then we'll look at, you know, we have people who we're looking at expanding it, because we don't feel that one person can mentor 50 people right now and still do the whole thing justice. So having two people mentoring 25 or more people, and then to be able to continue to do this for at least the first 3 years to see what else is the volume of the turnover, right? Because we see on average at least 10 administrative assistants over the last year. You know, we've been turning over at least 10 over.
It's my understanding that within 3 years or 5 years, once the backlog is caught up, we may not need two.
We might need.
We may not, but it's dependent upon, and my understanding, please correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is, we were told that we have a backlog of training now, that with one, we could deal with that, but it may take a lengthy period of time. When we become faster, we're having two. Estimate at what length it will take two to do it as opposed to one, but at some point, there may only be one.
Yeah, we can evaluate it.
That was my understanding. I'm not saying that's right, that's what I would say.
With each position, we always evaluate. With the current turnover, we had this 10 years ago, it was a full-time position. It's been vacant for 10 years. So having it internally, having an expertise, and also I think it's valuable for the person, or the people who are doing it, that they're actually actively doing these roles so that they have that credibility and understanding of what it means. We talked about this the first time, the question was, is this going to be too much for one person? And so we started evaluating that piece of it. It looks like when we recommended this additional position, which is to support it and build up, and then we'll continue to evaluate what happens after the 3 years.
I think I have some more questions that are personnel related. I also have questions about the position 10 years ago, and I'd like to get more information about that. I think some of that might be more appropriate for executive session, though. I'll just leave that there, but I think I have some more questions I'd like to discuss that might involve specific personnel.
Well, let me go back then, just so that I understand. Are we asking to pull this item until you get that
I believe
information?
that's the motion.
Was that what I'm hearing?
It wasn't a clear motion yet. It was just, the motion was just to discuss it.
So is someone making a motion to pull this item from the agenda until we get additional information?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to further discuss this item in executive session, and then to resubmit it to public session after we have more information.
There's a second on that?
Yeah.
All right, any further discussion on pulling it for the current time till we get more information? Seeing none there, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next. Someone like to make a motion to hold a closed meeting of the Board of Education, November 15th, 7 p.m. or immediately following this meeting. So moved.
Second.
Need a roll call on this one.
Director Adler,
Yes.
Director Faulkner,
Yes.
Director Hudson, Director Mueller,
Yes.
Vice President Petrov,
Yes.
President Cuneo,
Yes, would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes from our previous meetings?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Following items were approved during the executive meeting on November 1st, 2022. Employment resignations, retirements, salary adjustments, and extra duty pay. 2 contract release requests, 5 settlements, and title changes from Assistant Director of Equity, Teaching and Learning to Director, and a title change from Assistant Director of Equity and Human Resources to Director. Calendar of Board Communications. Would anybody have any additional communications? Again, I'd like to thank Dr. Macklin. Served us well. I believe Curtis, Katie, Dr. Keenan were all at that meeting. I thought it was a resolving success. I thought you gather that type of crowd at that time of a morning on a conference in Kansas City, it itself was remarkable.
Thank you.
All right, calendar events, everybody can look at. My understanding our next board meeting will be on December 13th. Someone wants to make motion to adjourn. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries.